I once thought love could conquer any distance, any challenge life threw our way. But when we became two strangers in our own home, a home once filled with laughter and vows, now just a museum of silence and nostalgic mementos, I knew it was over. A year ago, I stood amidst the wreckage of my marriage, the sharp shards of shattered trust and hope cutting into my heart, wondering how passionate love had transformed into this bone-chilling silence. This is my story. Leo, a tale of unhealable cracks, secrets that made my heart bleed, and my journey of learning to let go, accepting the past to move forward. If you've ever felt the person you love drifting further away like a star receding into darkness, I hope these words will be a companion whispering comfort that you are not alone on that painful journey. Have you ever felt that a seemingly small moment could define a person's entire life, completely altering the trajectory of their destiny? For me, that moment was a picturesque Los Angeles morning 12 years ago. Leo was standing in the Grand Central Market, the largest and busiest market in the city. Bustling amidst the crowded flow of people buying hot breakfast burritos for my mom, amidst the aroma of spices, corn, and the chaotic sounds, a girl unexpectedly bumped into me, dropping her entire shopping basket to the ground. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, I'm such a klutz," she exclaimed, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and that smile, a smile as radiant as morning sunlight on a cold winter day, immediately captivated me. I helped her pick up avocados, bunches of fresh herbs, and an old worn book, and we talked as if we had known each other our whole lives, as if fate had destined us to meet in that small corner of the market. That was the first time I met Sophia. Life went on, and I returned to my numbers and reports at the bank. I thought I would never see the girl from the market again until a fateful afternoon a few weeks later. I was sitting at my desk at the Central Los Angeles Bank branch, surrounded by piles of messy files and the buzzing sound of the printer. Suddenly, a familiar figure walked in. Dark hair, bright eyes, and a fleeting smile. It was Sophia. My heart skipped a beat. She was struggling with a complex money transfer, looking quite flustered. I approached her with a smile. "Hello, we meet again. Looks like you're having a bit of trouble, huh?" Sophia looked up, her eyes momentarily surprised before lighting up. "Oh, you're the guy from Grand Central Market that day, aren't you?" What a coincidence. I patiently helped her with the transaction, explaining each step, every number in detail. Sophia listened attentively, occasionally chuckling at my jokes. When everything was done, she sighed with relief. "Thank you so much, Leo. Without you, I'd probably have struggled all afternoon." I felt an unusual joy in my heart. From then on, accidental encounters were no longer accidental. I mustered up the courage to invite Sophia for coffee after work. She agreed. We went to a small, quiet coffee shop in the Arts District where colorful walls and the rich aroma of coffee filled the air. We talked for hours, no longer just small talk, but deeper shares about life, work, and secret dreams. I told her about the pressures of the banking industry, about the dry numbers that also hid human stories. As for her, Sophia passionately talked about her elementary school students, about how she tried to spark curiosity in each child about the meaningful lessons she wanted to convey. I loved the way she eagerly told stories, her eyes sparkling and her smile radiant. We realized we had so much in common, from our shared love for classic rock music to our passion for traditional American cuisine and our views on family. Each time we met, I felt more like myself, heard and understood. Sophia was a breath of fresh air, a bright color in my life of numbers and rules. I gradually felt like I had found my other half, someone not just beautiful on the outside, but also with a kind and profound soul. We quickly became indispensable to each other. In 2014, I mustered up the courage to propose to her on a romantic evening at Griffith Observatory under the shimmering magical lights and the distant sound of city jazz. "Leo, I want to grow old with you," she said, her eyes sparkling under the moonlight. That vow, I believed it would last forever. Our wedding took place at the historic St. Francis of Assisi Church, with the sound of a gospel choir echoing through the space and the warm, tight hug from my mother, who said Sophia was the jewel of our family, a treasure from God. We moved into a cozy little apartment in Santa Monica, where Sophia decorated with colorful, naive drawings given to her by children, brightening up the entire space. Our lives were filled with simple but profound joys. Evenings cooking traditional mac and cheese together, sharing stories from the day, spontaneous trips to Lake Tahoe, basking in the golden sun and clear blue water, and lazy nights on the sofa, holding each other tight, listening to Fleetwood Mac, dreaming of a distant future where we would build a small family together. I thought we would be happy forever, always destined for each other. But life isn't always an endless love song. There are changes that happen slowly, silently, like water eroding stone, and you don't realize it until everything shatters into irreparable pieces. In 2021, our lives began to take a different turn. a path we never anticipated. I was promoted to branch manager at the bank, a position I had always dreamed of, but also a sweet trap that stole my time and energy. Work consumed all my time. Meetings stretched late into the night, numbers and pressure left me exhausted. I came home late, utterly drained, wanting nothing more than to sink into sleep without bothering with the world around me. Sophia was just as busy. She had to deal with long school meetings, piles of exams to grade late into the night, and complex issues with students and parents. Gradually, our intimate evening conversations, our bright laughter and shared stories were replaced by the monotonous hum of the TV, tired, dismissive nods, and a heavy silence that enveloped the house. We still lived under the same roof, but it seemed we had become two planets orbiting on separate paths, no longer intersecting. I started to feel Sophia grow distant, as if an invisible wall was slowly building between us. She no longer told me interesting stories about her students, no longer smiled radiantly when I tried to crack jokes to break the atmosphere. "Is everything okay, Sophia?" I asked, my voice filled with worry, but she just offered a faint smile, her eyes empty. "It's fine, Leo. I'm just a little tired." I believed her, thinking she was simply exhausted from work, but the gap between us grew wider and colder. Some nights I lay beside her on our large bed, but it felt like she was somewhere far away, a world I couldn't reach. I tried to pull her back, tried to mend those invisible cracks. I cooked elaborate dinners with her favorite dishes, bought vibrant bouquets of sunflowers she cherished, trying to create romantic surprises. But Sophia only thanked me indifferently, then sank back into silence, into her own world. I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless watching the wife I loved slowly drift away, and I couldn't understand why. The light of love within us began to flicker in the invisible winds of distance and lack of understanding. Let me tell you about the day I realized we weren't just distant, we had completely lost each other. It was an afternoon in August 2023, and I was cleaning out my closet, preparing for my dad's Memorial Day, an important family tradition. Beneath old clothes tucked deep in the corner of the closet, I found a stack of documents tied with a faded rubber band. I immediately recognized the familiar handwriting on the cover. Sophia's handwriting, my wife's. Curious, I opened it. Inside were faded letters, blurry old photos, and a worn leather-bound diary. My heart pounded, a sense of unease creeping in. I recognized this as the diary Sophia used to carry with her in the early years of our relationship, but then it disappeared. I just thought she had put it away somewhere. I opened the diary, and what I read left me frozen, like an electric shock piercing my entire body. Sophia had written about feeling lost, about the profound loneliness she felt in our own marriage. "Leo doesn't look at me like before. He only sees work, sees numbers. I don't know how to tell him I'm slowly dying in silence, that I'm losing myself." One passage read, filled with bitterness. She wrote about crying alone in the bathroom, about finding a support group to cope with depression. Depression. Sophia was depressed. She had never said a word to me about this. I had been too busy with work, with my own goals, to realize that the wife I loved was struggling with such terrible emotional pain. I turned page after page of the diary, my heart constricting. And then another passage made my heart stop completely, the blood in my veins turning to ice. I met Daniel, my ex-boyfriend, at a small coffee shop. He listened to me, something Leo never does anymore. He wasn't judgmental, not busy, just simply listened. I sat there in the darkened room, the twilight casting shadows through the window, feeling betrayed in the most painful way. Sophia had not only hidden her depression, which was gnawing at her daily, but had also met her ex-boyfriend, seeking comfort from another man. When she came home, I placed the diary on the table, its pages crumpled like our own marriage. "Sophia, how do you explain this?" I asked, my voice trembling, barely able to utter the words. Her face paled, her eyes wide with fear, then tears streamed uncontrollably. "Leo, I'm so sorry. I just needed someone to listen. I felt so alone." She swore nothing happened with Daniel, that they just talked, just shared. But I couldn't believe it. "You hid everything from me, Sophia. You lied to me," I said, my voice choked, filled with resentment and pain. That night we slept in separate rooms, separated by an invisible wall of lies and disappointment. There are truths you never want to face. They are too cruel and harsh, but they force you to look directly at the essence of the problem, at the gaps in your own life. I thought I had understood all of Sophia's secrets from the diary, but then a week later I realized I was wrong. In my utter despair, I decided to contact Sarah, Sophia's best friend from college, someone I knew could help me understand things better. Sarah was a straightforward and trustworthy woman. When I asked about Daniel and Sophia's relationship with him, Sarah sighed heavily over the phone, her voice filled with fatigue and sorrow. "Leo, you need to know the truth, a truth more painful than you think. Sophia didn't just meet Daniel once or a few times. They had been meeting for months more frequently than you imagine because she needed someone who truly listened, someone who could understand what she was going through. Sarah told a story I had never imagined. Sophia had been struggling with depression since her mother passed away 3 years ago, a loss I, in my busy work life and personal ambitions, had completely failed to notice. "She hid it from you, Leo," Sarah said, her voice gently reproachful. "She thought you were too busy, too tired to care about her pain. She was afraid of burdening you. She felt she wasn't strong enough to speak out because you were always the strong one, the pillar of the family." Daniel, Sophia's ex-boyfriend, coincidentally met her at a charity event. And as Sophia sank deeper into the black hole of depression and loneliness within her marriage, Daniel appeared as a tiny ray of light. Sophia said she didn't love Daniel romantically, but he made her feel heard, understood. He spent hours just sitting in silence, listening to her talk, listening to her cry. Daniel had gone through a period of severe depression after his divorce, so he understood how Sophia was feeling. He introduced Sophia to a support group where she found empathy. Sarah explained, "She was ashamed to tell you, Leo, because she was afraid you would look down on her or think she was weak." This news was like a thunderclap, not to my trust, but to my complacency and callousness. Sophia wasn't distant just because of a lost connection, but because she was seeking comfort, understanding from someone else, a stranger I had neglected. She hadn't betrayed me physically, but I had betrayed her with my silence, with my indifference, by failing to recognize my wife's pain. When I confronted Sophia again, she confessed everything honestly without any concealment. "I was lonely, Leo. You never asked how I felt. You only asked if I was tired, if I was okay, and I always said okay because I was afraid you would leave me if I was weak," she sobbed. I wanted to believe, wanted to hold her and tell her everything would be fine, but the wound was too deep, not just hers, but mine too. "You chose to seek comfort from someone else instead of me. Your husband," I said, my voice cold, though my heart was shattering with regret. Those words once again pushed her away. I had let my emotions control me, and once again I destroyed everything. Have you ever felt yourself drifting aimlessly on a boat without a compass in the vast ocean of despair, where each raging wave is a shattered piece of your life? That was exactly how I felt in October 2023. Sophia, the wife I once loved more than life itself, decisively asked for a divorce without hesitation. "I can't continue, Leo. We're not us anymore," she said, her eyes red but with no more tears to shed, only exhaustion and emotional depletion. I begged her for one last chance, promising I would change, would listen, would fix all my mistakes. I clung on, pleaded like a desperate man, but she just shook her head, a firm and painful shake. "We've been lost to each other for too long, Leo, too long to find our way back. I need to find myself again. I need to breathe," she said. Those words were like a final knife, severing every fragile bond between us, all hope for a shared future vanishing. My family, especially my mom, was deeply shocked. She couldn't believe that the marriage she once considered the jewel of our family had fallen apart. "Marriage is a vow before God, Leo," my mom said, holding my hand tightly, her eyes pleading for me to try. But I couldn't entirely blame Sophia. I had failed to see her pain, failed to listen when she needed me, failed to notice the hidden cries for help behind her faint smile. I had been too focused on my work, on myself, neglecting the most important woman in my life. I hired a lawyer to begin the divorce proceedings, even though my heart felt torn apart, as if a part of my body was slowly dying. The divorce process was a painful and exhausting journey, not just legally, but a battle with myself. Sophia and I had to divide our assets, from the cozy apartment where we had built our home to small items like the set of ceramic dishes we had carefully chosen in Laguna Beach, each item holding memories that were now just burdens, cuts to my heart. Every time I met her at the lawyer's office, I just wanted to apologize, wanted to tell her how much I regretted everything, wanted to turn back time to fix it all, but she didn't even look at me, her eyes cold as if I were a stranger, non-existent. After Sophia left, she went back to her hometown to stay with her parents for a while. The house became an empty box, a tomb for a dead love. I plunged into a swamp of self-destruction. Alcohol bottles became my only companions, numbing the pain, if only temporarily. I often stayed up all night staring into space, trying to find Sophia's reflection, but only finding darkness and loneliness. My banking career plummeted. I was often late, unfocused at work, and made serious mistakes in transactions. Once, due to carelessness, I almost caused the bank to lose an important contract with a major client. My boss, Mr. Jenkins, a strict but always trusting man, called me into his office. "Leo, you're destroying everything. You're losing not only your wife, but also the career you've worked so hard to build. If you continue like this, I'll have no choice but to let you go." Mr. Jenkins's warning was like a splash of cold water, but I was too deep in pain to listen. I just nodded numbly, then returned to my bottles in solitude. My friends tried to pull me out of the quagmire, but I refused all invitations, locking myself in the apartment full of memories. I cut off contact with almost everyone except my mom, who patiently called and visited me despite my coldness. I had become a loner in my own life, a stranger in my own home, someone who had single-handedly destroyed everything. Do you believe in fate? In the invisible threads connecting even the smallest events to lead to a buried truth? I didn't until that day. In December 2023, as I was drowning in a storm of despair and my career was on the verge of collapse, an unexpected event occurred, completely changing how I viewed everything, not just about Sophia, but about my own life. I was fired from the bank after a serious transgression that damaged the branch's reputation. It was a huge shock and end to the career I had dedicated my youth to. Feeling utterly broken, I went to the office to pack up my personal belongings. Amidst stacks of old papers and office supplies, a letter fell out of a notebook I rarely used. The notebook belonged to Mark, my brother, who had lent it to me a long time ago, and I had forgotten to return it. Initially, I intended to throw it away, but a handwritten note on the envelope caught my attention. To Sophia. It wasn't my handwriting. With a surge of unease, I opened the letter. The content inside froze the blood in my veins, but not because of romantic betrayal. It was a family burden I had never known. It was a letter written by Mark, my brother, to Sophia, dated around the time Sophia began experiencing depression and growing distant from me. The content wasn't a romantic confession, but words of encouragement and shared burden. Mark wrote Sophia, "I know you're having a tough time. I know the financial burden on your family is weighing heavily on you after Aunt Elena, Sophia's adoptive mother, got seriously ill and needed expensive treatment. I know you had to sell your grandmother's old house to pay for her treatment, and you're shouldering the debt alone. I heard you talking about meeting Daniel, and I understand you need someone to listen, someone to share the burden. I can't help you much financially, but I'm always here to listen to you to share this burden. Don't keep it from Leo forever, Sophia. He's your husband. He deserves to know." I read the letter over and over, not believing my eyes. My heart felt shattered. Sophia had not only hidden her depression, but also a huge financial burden of her family, that she had to sell her grandmother's sentimental house and was carrying debt alone. Mark, my brother, knew everything, had tried to help Sophia silently, but hadn't said a word to me. It turned out that Sophia's distance wasn't just because I was indifferent, but also because she was trying to protect me from this burden. Or perhaps she had lost faith that I could understand and share. This wasn't a betrayal of affection, but a betrayal of silence, of hidden burdens. It made me realize that I had been too focused on the numbers in the bank and neglected the truly important numbers in my wife's life, the numbers of pain, of burden, of silent sacrifice. I felt a deep shame, a pain even greater than anger. Mark had no ill intentions. He just wanted to help Sophia, but his silence and my indifference had created this tragedy. After reading Mark's letter, I fell into a state of utter turmoil. The pain of losing Sophia, the collapse of my career, and now the truth about her hidden family burden, along with my brother's silence. My home van, dalamot nam mo chotin iu natroten motnya tu yam hamtoy, chongying swingi dentoy nyut. I completely cut off all contact with the outside world. My phone was off, the doors locked. I didn't answer any texts or calls from my mom, from friends. I spent days and nights wandering like a ghost in the darkened apartment, where every memory of Sophia was now stained with regret and buried secrets. Alcohol bottles became my breath, the only way for me to temporarily escape the nightmare gnawing at my mind. I started talking to myself, sometimes screaming into thin air, blaming everyone, and most of all, blaming myself for being so blind, so indifferent. My career was gone, my love shattered, and trust in my family was broken. I saw no more meaning in continuing. Some nights I stood by the window looking down at the bustling streets under the Los Angeles nightlights, wondering if this life was still worth living. The feeling of hopelessness, abandonment, and self-loathing grew, consuming me. I wondered if I could just permanently disappear from this world to end all the suffering. At the moment, I thought I had reached the deepest bottom of despair. When I was standing on the verge of complete collapse, an unexpected encounter happened. Not a word of comfort, but another shock. A shock that pushed me into a situation I could no longer avoid. One rainy afternoon, I wandered aimlessly through the deserted streets of Los Angeles, my mind swirling with alcohol and despair. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to escape everything. Suddenly, I bumped into an elderly man sitting sheltered under the awning of a closed store. He had a simple appearance but exuded wisdom, his eyes gleaming with an unusual serenity. "Hey, young man," he said, his voice hoarse. "You look lost. What's wrong?" I, in my drunken state and resentment, poured out bitter words about my life, about my shattered career, about my broken marriage, about hidden secrets. I didn't know why I was telling everything to a stranger. He listened patiently, without judgment, without interrupting. When I stopped, he looked at me with deep eyes, as if seeing through my very soul. "Young man," he said, "life is like a river. Sometimes it flows gently, sometimes there are rapids, but no matter what, it must keep flowing. You're trying to swim against the current, trying to hold on to things that have already passed. Pain isn't about what you've lost, but about your unwillingness to let go." He paused, then continued, "I also lost everything once. Lost my family, lost my home in a flood. I once wanted to die, but then I realized that even though I lost everything, I still had breath, still had eyes to see the sky, ears to hear the birds sing. Life isn't about how much you gain, but about learning to let go and appreciate what you still have." He told me his story about how he lost everything but found peace by becoming a wanderer, traveling across the country, helping those in need. He didn't give me specific advice, just told his story, but his every word was like a knife cutting into my soul, then soothing it. "Find a peaceful place, young man," he said as he stood up. "A place where you can hear your own heart. Hear the whisper of the earth and sky. Don't hide, face it. And remember, sometimes the greatest forgiveness isn't forgiving others, but forgiving yourself." Then he disappeared into the rainy night, leaving me alone. But this time I no longer felt empty. His words, his story had planted a seed of hope in my heart, a tiny light in the darkness. I realized that I couldn't just keep wallowing in self-pity. I had to stand up, face what had happened, and find a new path for myself. After that fateful rainy night, I decided to change. Not for Sophia, not for anyone else, but for myself, to find the person I had lost, to find peace within my soul. I didn't seek conventional therapy. Instead, I decided to embark on a journey I believed would help me heal, returning to my roots. I sold the apartment in Santa Monica, completely giving up my stressful banking life. I found a small secluded village in the Sierra Nevada mountains where Sophia used to talk about her grandmother's house where she found peace as a child. I didn't go there to find Sophia, but to find myself, to reconnect with nature, with the simple values I had neglected. I got a job at an organic coffee farm where I learned to care for the plants, from nurturing seedlings to watering to harvesting each ripe coffee bean. I spent my days working under the sun, my hands stained with red earth, feeling life sprout from Mother Earth. I learned to slow down, to feel every breath of the earth and sky, every coffee bean germinating, every drop of night dew. I no longer had to be obsessed with numbers or meetings. Instead, I listened to the rustling wind through the trees, the chirping of birds every morning, and my own heart. My healing journey wasn't about therapy sessions in a closed room, but about returning to nature, to simplicity, to learning to listen, listening to my own heart, listening to the birdsong, listening to the unspoken stories from the humble farmers. I learned to let go of control, to let go of material ambitions, and to focus on the core values of life: peace, connection, and gratitude. I started journaling again, but this time not to record pain or doubt, but to record peaceful moments, positive thoughts, lessons I learned from nature and the villagers. I also started learning to cook, especially traditional American comfort food. My meatloaf wasn't perfect, still a bit clumsy, but my mom said it had soul, that it tasted of effort and love. One day I received a letter from Sophia. She had received my apology letter. In her letter, she didn't talk about getting back together, but simply said she had read it and she understood. "Leo, I've found my own peace. I hope you do too. Thank you for finding me, and thank you for trying to heal yourself." It wasn't a plea for reconciliation, but a thank you, a gentle forgiveness and acceptance of what had passed. That letter freed me from the last burden. Want to know where I am now? I'm standing at the beginning of a new road, not knowing where it will lead me, but I'm no longer afraid. My life has changed completely, a change I personally caused, but also personally repaired step by step. I still live in the small mountain village, working at the coffee farm. This job brings me a peace I never had in the banking industry. I've learned to slow down, to feel every breath of the earth and sky, every coffee bean sprouting. I just completed a financial design for the farm's expansion project, and the satisfaction in my work helps me rediscover joy. A joy not from money, but from the meaning of helping others, helping the community. And I still cook, especially meatloaf. My meatloaf isn't perfect, still a bit clumsy, but my mom said it had soul, that it tasted of effort and love. One afternoon, I brought a hot plate of meatloaf to the village market, sharing it with the locals, and their radiant smiles made me feel alive again, made me feel I could bring joy to others. Sophia has moved on to another city to start a new life, seeking a true fresh start. We still keep in touch, not through long conversations, but short texts, simple check-ins. Romantic love is gone, but a new bond has formed between us, a deep respect and gratitude, a mutual forgiveness. I no longer remember Sophia with pain or regret, but with peace and the lessons she taught me. I'm not sure if I'll fall in love again. Some days I still miss Sophia, miss the way she smiled radiantly when she dropped her basket the first day we met. But then I look in the mirror and I see a stronger, more mature man who has learned a valuable lesson from his own mistakes. I lost a wife. A love I once thought was eternal, but I found myself again a better version of the old Leo. A man who knows how to forgive himself, how to accept his mistakes and bravely face the future. I am no longer haunted by indifference or the fear of abandonment. I have found peace. If you're listening to this story, I want to send you a message from the bottom of my heart. No matter how great the distance, no matter how deep the cracks in love, no matter how big the mistakes you've made, you can still find your way. Find yourself again. The journey of healing is a long and challenging road, but it's worth it. It's a journey to find yourself, to live a more authentic, more peaceful life, and to learn to love yourself and those around you more completely. As we often say, keep moving forward, always keep moving forward. Step forward, look ahead, because you deserve a better life with genuine love, not controlled by past mistakes or doubts. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story has brought up any thoughts or feelings for you, or if you've also faced the fires of jealousy and loss, don't hesitate to leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Every shared word is an act of empathy, helping us feel less alone. And if you found this story meaningful, please like this video. Share it with anyone you think needs to hear this message. And especially, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories and meaningful insights. Let's spread strength and hope together.